Hard Hat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
If you want to cement legacy, win another.
He's your third center.
You don't want to pump him up too much, but it's hard not to.
This is maybe the most I've ever agreed with you.
What are we doing, Jimmy?
This is a sleep mask game, John. This is why we put on the sleep masks.
All right.
These types of games.
All right, Jimmy, I got to do something. You're solo for 30 seconds.
What?
Yep.
What do you mean? Oh my God, I'm just going to do this for 30 seconds. I'm going to toss the sleep mask on. If anybody watched this game tonight, how many times did you want to look away? How many times did you want to toss this bad boy on and just doze off? Because it felt like the Celtics did just that. The way they came out in that third quarter tonight and gave up, what was it, 14-0 run, something ridiculous like that. Said this before. If you're the Celtics, John, you dictate how the game is being played, not the other way around. And in the first two games, we gave the Celtics credit for being physical and for playing tough and for answering the Magic's physicality and still being able to do their thing. But I'm at the point now where it's time for make the Magic answer you. You're arguably the best team in the league, or you're supposed to be. You're arguably the best team in the East.
Second fewest.
And here's Joe Mazzulla. We'll go to him.
Did you think that was self-inflicted compared to dictated by their physicality?
I mean, you have to give them credit. I think it was a combination of both. I thought they obviously upped their ball pressure at the point of attack, full court and the half court. They didn't accept switches as easy. So I would say it's, you have to give credit to them with their defensive physicality, but we also had some ones that we have to be better at.
And then 15 offensive rebounds leads to 16 second chance points. What did you see as the root of that?
I mean, they were more physical than us on the offensive glass, and so that's 40 points in the margins on the turnovers and second chance points. So we have to be better. And when you don't do those things, it comes down to
a lot of refs talk in the chat, John.
They were bad. I'm not a ref guy.
You want to get him in earlier there.
Bad.
I had the mask on.
Hold on.
We had 5 fouls, so we waited until the best possible moment to get him in.
And you guys went bigger for a lot of this game. Looking back on it, do you think that was the right move against some of the rebounding and
Joe doesn't like it
off there?
They just at the end of the day we went to multiple different lineups, especially without Drew, one of our guards, we were able to do that. So regardless of who's in, we got to do a better job of rebounding. They did a better job than us on the glass tonight for sure.
Joe, the supporting cast was shut down pretty handily.
Yeah, theirs was good. I think all their second unit was in the positive.
Yeah. What did you see that led to them being able to cut them off?
Yeah, just one there. We because of the offensive rebounds, we didn't play as fast as we need to. We got to play a little bit faster. But they did a great job just being physical at the point of attack, not helping as much. Shutting other guys down. They did a good job of helping when necessary, but then not over helping, and that's something that we knew they were going to do, and we just had to be better at that.
Joe, going into that final timeout, how much time did you think would be left on the clock? Is that something you're kind of guessing there? And then how much?
The 0.3?
Yeah.
No, I mean, we knew it was 0.3. And so, you can probably get a catch and shoot off, but I knew they'd have their bigger lineup in. So we just, it's a play that we've practiced. We just, it was a perfect pass. We just didn't execute it.
And then is that a tough, how challenging a decision is that between playing out the defensive possession and trying to extend the game?
It's not. I mean, that was right at the differential. It's just a long rebound that went out to half court. We get that rebound at the free throw line or a little bit. It's just it was great defense, and you don't expect the rebound to go all the way out to half court. So if we catch it two bounces earlier, it's we have plenty of time on there. So that's right. It was right at the point where we're deciding on what we were doing there, and if we just get it's just an unlucky bounce off the rim and then went out to half court instead of getting it where we were on the free throw line.
Joe, what's the explanation they gave you on the first 8-second call that was turned into an inadvertent whistle?
I guess he crossed and then it was deflected into the backcourt. What they said.
Did you have an issue with that?
No, I mean it's just part of the game. It's the human nature, inadvertent whistle. I do think you should go back and review the certain time. I think there was more time than 0.3 on the clock, but what are you gonna do?
And what happened to the offense in the second half? You guys
Yeah.
were up 10, and then suddenly they went. It just seemed like a shutdown.
Yeah, so what, it was 10 there, and then we got a layup. We got an offensive foul, which, could have gone either way there, and then they come down. Corey Joseph hits a three. I think either Banchero or Wagner hits a three. They get an offensive rebound, and now, you're at their place, and it's a tie game, and they up their pressure and their physicality. I have to, can do a better job play calling, getting us in the right spots. We got to do a better job at the point of attack. We got to do a better job screening. We got to do a better job on our offensive physicality.
The challenge, what was your perspective on that? They won.
It was, 2 timeouts, and you're looking to try to get the 2-for-1 in a possession game. It looked like it didn't look like he had touched it yet. It looked like it was off, Carter. So we were just trying to get that extra possession there. Thanks.
A quick Joe Mazzulla press conference. Joe, not super combative here. Definitely didn't love how this game went. He wasn't able to do anything to change it up for him. Oh, no power.
There you go,
Abby. Abby. We've made Abby sad. We have to get off
Look
of this.
what you did, Celtics. Yeah. Isn't
Nice
this
job, guys.
Isn't this when you do? Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I linger on the podium. It's for effect. I talk over it.
So
but
you
then-
can complain about the people getting in your shot, right? Yes. I know.
Get out of there. Get your head out of there, Corrales. All right. I'm going to go through all of it because people are everywhere here, all over the map.
Yep.
I will say Shadur Sanders is still available,
Yeah, that's crazy to me. Me and Mel Kiper are not happy right now.
which is crazy. There was so much suck tonight, Jimmy. I don't know where to begin. Like, I just want to put this out there so we can all agree that we can agree and then not talk about it. The refs were horrible, horrible.
Horrible.
And they keep doing it. It's been all playoffs long. It's not just the Celtics. They're letting people get away with stuff a lot. But my God, Orlando commits 5 fouls every single possession, and they just get to do it. And it's insane. The grabbing. So fine, you have that. You got to read the room here. So I'm going to take it and not to complain about the refs cost us the game, but to complain about how the Celtics decided to play. You can't be a sitting duck when that happens. Okay? You can't be. Sanders got drafted. How about that? You can't be
By
a
who?
sitting. I don't know. Someone just said he got drafted.
Oh, you probably got lied to. Anyways,
You can't sit there and just dribble the ball over and over and over again when you know they're grabbing and they're pushing and they're chucking. You got to move it. Okay? That way they can't get their mitts on you. The Celtics went into ridiculous hero ball mode the entire second half, and they just didn't pass the ball. And Jayson Tatum was the best player on the planet in the first half, and a detriment to them in the second half, dribbling the air out of the ball, no friggin' movement, bad turnovers. Him and Jaylen combining for 13 turnovers is insane. You turn it over when you dribble too much. Move the basketball. That's the worst offense I've seen in 4 years from this team. My eyes are bleeding for most of that. That was so hard to watch. And look, it's one game and it's not going to matter. I get it. Everyone's kind of the same thing. I don't. You think that the NBA wants Celtics magic to go on longer? They don't give a friggin' flying. They don't care.
Yeah, their ratings are gonna boom.
They just want to get the Celtics in their. They would rather the Orlando be out and get the Celtics and their next opponent in that Sunday, window, national TV window. They don't want the quicker you get rid of Orlando from these playoffs, the better everyone is. There's no conspiracy. This isn't the conference finals where you don't want it to go 4-0 because you got a long layoff. There's games every single night. You don't need the Magic and the Celtics series to go on. I hate this extender stuff. That it doesn't come into play here with this team in this series at this point in the playoffs. It doesn't. I don't think it. But there's so much bad tonight, Jimmy. I don't even know where to begin. It's the worst KP game maybe he's ever played. You know, the Tatum stuff was brutal. Brown looked physically half of what he looked like the last game, and he entered the game being questionable, which sucked. Holiday missed the game. Hauser's never going to score again. Pritchard was bad. There was just a lot of bad. And so, yeah, the Magic kind of affected them a little bit, but the Celtics got a little too cool for school there in the second half, because they had that great 19-5 run to close the second quarter. They take a 10-point lead. Then they go 7.5 minutes, Jimmy, scoring 4 points in the third quarter. It just can't happen.
Well, yeah, and we know.
And yes, this is a very astute comment. Hauser can't be on the floor if you're not going to move the ball, because he can't. Otherwise, he's useless. You move the ball to get guys like Hauser open shots, or he's useless. Useless. 100% true.
That was one of Noah's points earlier in the year, is that she usually can get a good idea of how the Celtics are
How
playing.
the ball's moving by his shots, yeah.
By how Hauser gets his shots up. This is the third nothing from Hauser, by the way. This is the third nothing from the bench. Pritchard aside. But Pritchard didn't do anything either.
Small, good Cornet stint in the second quarter.
Okay, I'll give you that.
But then Joe tried to force double bigs, and it wasn't working in the second half.
Right.
But you had Brown in foul trouble, and you're down Holiday, so you were limited a little bit in your lineup choices. I lost you.
What? I'm right here.
There you go. You just got muted for a second.
That's weird. I hope my internet doesn't stink, but we'll figure it out. But
Pittsburgh just drafted a running back. Sanders is still on the board. Unbelievable. Keep going.
It's too bad. The fix is in. Lost my train of thought because you keep going back to the draft.
I'm just in on it.
Oh,
I'm just
the bench. You don't win and lose based on the bench, and we are gonna talk about Tatum and Brown, I'm sure, a ton tonight, as we should. But on a night where you didn't have Holiday, and on a night where clearly Brown's hobbled, Tatum's coming back from an injury, and time a game would tell you what he was like. Nobody on the bench hasn't been able to step up in this series. You had one from Pritchard, but you're going to have to get more at some point. And tonight would have been a great example of that. Somebody.
You're in and out, in and out, in and out.
I don't know why.
Go. You're good now. Go ahead.
No, I mean, it would have been the perfect opportunity for somebody on the bench to be able to come in and make missing from an injured Tatum or an injured Brown. But you just weren't able to get that tonight. So that's one of my issues. In the third quarter, or the way they really didn't come on the third quarter, was the difference. Third quarter.
Your lips are moving and then the sound comes every once in a while. Check your connection on your mic. It's really bad. Everything is bad.
Can you hear me?
Now I can, yeah. You're cutting in and out like crazy though. Nope, you're gone. Why don't you say goodbye, and I'll hang out with the chat for a little bit and see if you can power back up and figure it out. Hi guys, it's me. Should we go hang out in the Patriots room for a little bit and see what's going on over there? The ghost of Josue. Cancel the show. Cancel it. I'm furious. I'll ask everybody in the chat here, and Bailey, you can put up a poll here. What is the what bugged you most tonight? Officiating, Tatum's play. What else is in play? The bench. Give me a fourth one. What's a fourth one that we could complain about? And the Pats did trade back again. For anybody who cares. Porzingis. We'll put Porzingis in there. KP. Bad. End of game was really bad too. That whole sequence was bad. I want to pull it up too. I'm going to pull it up while we wait for Jimmy to come back here, because I want to try to remember all of it. I was trying to take notes as we were going, but I'm also keeping an eye on the stupid friggin' draft and doing that show as well. But you had it at 91 all, which was great. And Wagner comes back and scores. Tatum takes a freaking ridiculous contested shot. He took 2 of those late. Just can't do it. Can't do it. He took 2 of them in the last 3 minutes. Just dribble, contested fadeaway over a 6'9" guy. Brutal shot there. Wagner makes a layup, goes 95-91, and then Pritchard just under the basket, dribble. Brutal, brutal game there. That weird exchange with Derek White, and then Horford blocks that shot, and that one goes out as well. Another brutal situation there. You're still down 95-93 here, and that I really don't get it. And I know, Jimmy, you watched the end of the game there. I know benefit of hindsight. It's easy to say, okay, really bad luck. Orlando, this is the last possession. Orlando shoots, it's about a 3.9 second differential between the game clock and the shot clock. And Orlando shoots at the very last second, barely gets it off. And it's a 3, which is bad because that's going to be in the air for a little bit longer than something closer to the rim. And it's a long rebound. And that's what I was worried about there. That's why I think you got to foul early in that clock and make the decision. 4 seconds is tight. I mean, even if it's not a long rebound, you're looking at maybe a second there to get that one back. And you're just not. And if it goes in, your game's over. So I didn't love the decision to not foul there late. I don't love the friggin' alley-oop attempt there. Who were they throwing that to? Jaylen? He can't jump.
Porzingis.
Oh God, it was terrible. So I hated all of it. But there was there's so much I don't like here.
So going back to the Magic's last possession, it's hard for me to say that it was the bad call, that it was the wrong call. And I thought Mazzulla explained it pretty well. The only thing different you could have done is been in a better position for a long rebound. If you know that it's going to be a long shot, which clearly it was at some point, they couldn't move the ball any closer. Maybe guys are in a better position to grab that long rebound.
And Joe kept Jaylen out way too long. That was the last thing I wanted to talk about at the end of the game. Go ahead.
Yeah, he did. But again, you get into the foul game. There's a good chance you're going to hit 2 free throws, and then now you're really out of time, right? So I don't hate it. I think they got unlucky with the way the ball bounced. They tried to call a timeout as soon as they could. They maybe lost a few more milliseconds there. I agree with you. I don't love the lob play at the rim. I get why they did it with the amount of time they have, but you can get a shot off in 0.3. The NBA has come out and said 0.3 is enough time to get a shot off on an inbound. So I probably would have liked to see them get a look at a shot, then just throw the lob up there. Maybe they were hoping for some kind of foul. I don't know what they were hoping for, but none of it worked out. Kind of sums up the frustrations of this game. And I know you listed a number of them. When I was away, I didn't really hear some of your other points, so I don't want to.
No, double down. We're gonna need 3 friggin' blame pies tonight.
I can't wait for blame pie.
Someone rebutting my point here on the ref conspiracy. More playoff games benefit team owners and TV. I understand that too, and they want the gate. But like Orlando's not getting game 6. I'm sorry, but so like they were getting 3 and 4, and they're not getting an extra gate. I know this benefits the Celtics getting one more game here, but I don't necessarily buy it. I don't buy it, but thank you for the contribution, X3. I do. And I respect the opinion. I tend to think at this stage with these teams, not necessarily the case, but yeah.
What was I saying before you went there?
Sorry, I saw this. We have some super chats stacking up, and I wanted to get to a couple of them.
Yeah, that's fine. I appreciate
I'll throw a couple else out there. Jackson Foot throwing it out here. Is it worth discussing swapping Hauser minutes for Shireman or Craig?
Craig, no.
I don't want to see either of those guys. I think Orlando's going to maul Shireman. I don't think he's ready for this level of physicality and intensity in these playoffs, but I understand why people are saying it.
It's got to be Hauser. They've got to figure out a way to get him going. Got to get a shot up, especially now. especially because it appears that both Tatum and Brown, and again, Tatum had a great stat line tonight, but I think he was in and out, right?
Jamaican boy with a good point here as well.
The turnover.
Yeah.
You got to find a way to get Hauser his shots up. I mean, you do it early. Get him going. If he's, like you said earlier in the show, he's useless if the ball's not being worked around and if he can't get the ball like in motion, catch and shoot situation. This guy is too good. He's too good of an outside shooter to be a complete zero and to be a complete non-factor. It's on Mazzulla. It's on the coaching staff. It's on Tatum. It's on those guys to figure out a way to get Hauser involved in this. He was huge for them last year in the playoffs. He needs to be big for them now, and especially so with guys being banged up. You now have 3 guys in the starting lineup, Tatum, Brown, and Holiday, who are clearly not themselves. I mean, Holiday couldn't even play tonight. I can't even figure that one out. We haven't even talked about that. I don't even know what that's about. And Brown, again, this is what we were afraid of, John. Again, Brown looked awesome in game 2. Now this is the 3rd game here, and is the knee becoming an issue? Is that part of the reason why he doesn't look himself there tonight? Of course it is. You've got Tatum with the hand. How is that affecting his ability to be comfortable out there and play the way he really wants to play? And again, I know he found a way to score tonight, and he didn't even shoot horribly from the outside. So he goes from doubtful to questionable. Why is that? There's so much going on with this team in this game, and the fact that they lost it, yeah, it's a frustrating loss for a number of reasons. And like you, it's hard for me to like focus on one, but I go back to that 3rd quarter, John, because that's really when the game took a turn and shifted. There's no excuse for the Celtics to allow the Orlando Magic, probably the worst offensive team in the playoffs, to rip off a run like that. What was the final run that they went on? Do you remember? Do you know what the score was in that 3rd quarter?
No, but I mean, it was
like 20.
It was like 19 or something, 19 or 20 without the Celtics scoring a point there for that after a minute or so of the 3rd.
Yeah. I mean, can you even begin to, I don't care if it's, you can blame the refs all you want, and listen, we will criticize.
Sure. But the Celtics didn't deserve to win this game.
They didn't deserve to win this game. The way they came out in that second half was inexcusable. This is a playoff game. This is on the road. This is against a team that's much less talented than you and really can't score. I mean, Magic still couldn't hit 100 tonight, but the Celtics ending up with 93 points. When you have a team as talented and a roster as talented as this one, it's just unacceptable. I don't care the 3 blind mice could have been refereeing out there tonight, and I still think the Celtics should have figured out a way to win this one against this Magic team. So it is disappointing.
They should have. All they needed was some stops there, but like their offense, they just kept getting in their own way on offense here. And there's not.
I don't mean to disrespect Banchero and Wagner. They are 2 young, great.
They're
players
fine, but they scored 95 points.
Yeah.
The Magic dictated the pace of what they wanted to happen, and you played into their hands. They ran you off the line. 27 3-pointers. I think that's the low point for the year. 27 attempted. They've made 27 before. Attempted 27. So
crazy,
brutal. They
goes back to letting them dictate the game.
Yeah, 19 turnovers because you dribbled the crap out of the ball, and 13 of them come from your 2 best players. Like, guys, you got to be better than that. Pritchard, who never turns the ball over, turned it over 3 times. So again, just really, really brutal stuff there. And Porzingis, again, probably his worst game I can remember as a Celtic. And, we're going to hear from him in a minute in the locker room. He took full accountability for it, as you expected he would.
Good.
They were terrible. And again, I know the officiating was bad, and I agree. A lot of this stuff.
You can't do an hour on the refs. Sorry, guys.
You can't do an hour on the refs. Even the turnovers, many of them were results of contact and forcing things, but a lot of them were completely unforced, just bad, not taking care of the ball. Those 2 back-to-back inbounds plays there in the 3rd quarter off the timeout was extremely bad there as well. So, yeah, sorry, I'm reading through some of the comments here. But again, yeah, Joe, this is it. I mean, it's pretty easy. Like, You just move the ball. You get to 100 points and you win. Just move the ball a little bit. That's how you're going to get your open threes. How do you think you're going to get the things that you want to get in this game without, without any sort of ball movement? It's baffling. It really was like the last year of Brad sort of basketball here. Really just remarkable stuff.
Well, let me ask you this.
We're going to get Bobby coming in from Orlando in a little bit as we're waiting to get,
Nice.
some other stuff going on.
What concerned you the most tonight, if you had to pick one?
It was just an all around dog shit performance. The long-term stuff is the thing that concerns me most is Jaylen Brown going 41 minutes in the last game, looking great, and then being questionable to enter this game. I don't want to see that at all. Right. I know people don't want to get after this stuff, and that kills me, because that means this is the ride you're going to be on the rest of the way.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to see it. Like that sucks. I was hoping it was like, okay, he got the shot and now you're going to get that Jaylen the rest of the way and he's going to be good. And that wasn't exactly the case here. We're going to bring on Bobby Manning as well to talk about some stuff. What's going on, Bobby? Actually, Bobby, before you get going, let me tell the folks at home quickly about Prize Picks. I was trying to get to it. I didn't get a chance to, but Prize Picks, get in on the action here that the basketball playoffs are underway. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy, my friends. That's all you have to do. America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Get your sports opinions, figure it out, and turn that into real cash, up to 1,000 times your cash when you pick more or less, as we said, on at least 2 players. A lot of great deals. Taco Tuesday, Freaky Friday, free squares, all sorts of stuff to get in on the action here. So again, run your game with Prize Picks. All you have to do is download that app, play 5, get 50 instantly in your account when you enter the code CLNS. Once again, new users, download the app, play 5, get 50 instantly when you use the code CLNS. Prize Picks, run your game. Bobby, what stands out to you tonight as the biggest issue with this game? There's so many things to not like. I don't really know where to go.
Yeah, they got shaken. And does that last? We'll see here. But the Magic knocked them off their game considerably here. And it was an accumulation from the first 2 games, right? Look at those 2 games. Celtics didn't play good offensively in those games. They kind of grinded it out. And then in this game, you were a little thinner without Drew. Of course, you had no Tatum last game and still got by here. But with some Magic role guys getting going, with their pace picking up and the amount of turnovers that you committed in this one, it all amounted into it actually being an impactful Magic approach. So you put some of it on the Celtics, sloppy stuff in this one. You turn it over nearly 20 times, you're going to lose a game. And we said that throughout the course of this game, John. It was close. They had a chance to win it for pretty much the entire night, and they threw away way too many possessions. And that's why you don't shoot the amount of threes that you normally do. That's why you're giving up transition buckets. That's why you're fouling while you're trying to defend those transition plays. And it's the one thing Joe talks about all the time, right? As long as we don't turn over the ball, we're gonna have a pretty good chance to win games. And this was the most turnovers since December 23rd here in this building. They've lost every game in this building going back to 2022. It's a bit of a house of horrors, this team. I told you guys, it's a really bad matchup for Boston. It's a really bad matchup.
They're still going to win this in 5
is.
games, even playing like
No,
shit
not.
and being.
It's
Bobby,
gonna go
what
6, John.
Bobby, what I said is what's happening. They're going to win in 5, and it's going to be annoying, as every game has been, and they're going to lose a really annoying game, which is what they did tonight. You're not going to go back to Orlando after this one. I guarantee it.
Do you know how healthy they're going to be the rest of the way in this series?
It doesn't matter.
You didn't, when you picked Magic in 6th, you didn't know that Holiday was going to be hurt. You didn't know that Tatum was going to be hurt. And even though both those guys are, the Celtics still should have won this game. So you still were off.
You can't do worse than the Celtics did tonight. And this game doesn't, put it this way. I'm going to rail on because I'm annoyed because it was an annoying game to watch, but I'm this worried, next to zero worried about this series and this team and this game. This was just an annoying game, and they couldn't have been more
know how you feel
bothered.
that way.
They couldn't have played worse. Orlando couldn't have gotten more of what they wanted here. You were missing a player, and Orlando got away with committing about 75,000 fouls
Maybe
again.
that's going to continue to happen.
Maybe, and you still had a chance to win the game. I mean, if this is what Orlando can do, that's going to rattle them, the series is over. I'm not concerned at all about this, and neither should the Celtics be, and neither should Celtics fans personally. But
John,
there was a
it's not
lot
about
to
being
not like
concerned.
about it. Yeah.
What's it about?
It's about it being extremely difficult, which it has been so
We
far.
said it was going to
which
be
it continue to
annoying
be.
and difficult
So,
series.
Here's
So what gives you
where you're-
confidence that they're going to close out? With,
Because
you
they're
know,
10 times better. They're still going to win. You play your worst game you've played since 2021 and you lose by 2 points on the road, like with half your team injured. Porzingis playing the worst game he's ever played. Like, this is like, again, if I'm Orlando, I'm like, all right, I would have been better to win by a lot here. Like, I mean, give me a break.
No, the margin's
here.
small. But the margin
It's
for the
such a
Celtics
small
winning,
margin. Such a small margin.
the margin for
I'm
the
not
Celtics
worried.
winning last game was small too there. And I said it to you on our Celtics beat
And
show
we
the
got
other
some
day,
Orlando
John.
in the chat. We got some Orlando in the chat. Welcome in, guys. We appreciate you. Everybody take it easy on our friends from Orlando. Even if you say this stuff, keep it clean. Keep it clean. He did. He just said F, and that's okay. And yeah, Orlando didn't play bad. Orlando played the way Orlando can play. I like Orlando a lot, and they're shorthanded too, and they're
Sounds like
missing
it.
players. I liked them at the beginning of the year, but this version of Orlando and what they have here isn't going to be able to compete the rest of the series, but that's okay.
I don't know what gives you the confidence. I mean, the Magic were able to make more threes in this game. They've relatively held the offensive rebounding battle pretty close. They've lost the free throw battle, pretty dramatically going into this one by two games there. And then they come back and win it in this one. They've kept all of those things that you would look at and say, what's going to keep this series close? Pretty close. And so, yeah, the Celtics scrapped out of game 2. Magic scrapped out of game 3. I don't know why this couldn't extend to a third or to a sixth, rather. The way
Because
it's gone so
because
far.
Orlando can't score 100 points. I mean, they hit it on the button last game, but again, you're just not going to limit the Celtics. You're not going to be able
They have
to keep
limited
the
the Celtics.
but not that far down. That's kind of the point, Bobby. It's just they just simply lack the firepower to be able to go there. And yeah,
John,
look, I
only
respect your opinion, Bobby. I just disagree with it. Like this
the
is
only thing Bobby has
exactly
going
what
for
I
him
would thought. Yeah, go ahead, Jimmy.
I mean,
is
just stack up the
injuries
performances
right now for the
Jimmy,
Celtics. Stack up the performances in what capacity?
on the Celtics side. The amount of guys who have struggled in more games
Right.
than not
Right.
in this
Well,
series.
So the bench has been a non-factor. You had one Pritchard game, but other than that, your guy Luke had like one stint in this game that he was effective. He's been a no-show. Hauser, another no-show. This bench is all of a sudden non-existent.
Hauser
Now the
has
problem,
0 points in 3 games.
and I said this earlier on the show, Bobby, that's unacceptable. If you're Joe Mazzulla, if you're Jayson Tatum, whoever you are, Hauser's too important to that second unit to be a 0. He was huge for you last year in the playoffs. He's one of the best outside shooters in the NBA. And you can't get him looks. You can't get him open shots. That's unacceptable at this stage of we're in the playoffs now. So that's one thing. The other thing, John, I think you're being Bobby, we just lost.
Oop.
I think John is forgetting that this is not a fully functional, ripping and roaring Celtics team at the moment, John. The only way this Celtics team could lose is if they got hit, if they got hit with the injury bug. And right now,
And that's a factor.
I would say they're suffering.
Guys, they won
from
without
injury.
Tatum last game. I mean, what
They
are we
did.
talking about here?
They did, okay, and then they lost with him banged up tonight, and they lost with Jaylen Brown, who looked banged up tonight, and they lost with Drew Holiday, who was out tonight. Why are you so sure that all those 3 things can't be true?
It's simply
in 2
because
days, 2 days.
Orlando's down 2 players, so they themselves are already limited, and they just simply lack the firepower with what's left. That's it. It's not a
I'm not
not
picking the Magic
disrespectful
to
to
win the series.
Orlando.
I'm
I
not
like
picking-
Orlando. I
I'm not
really
picking
do.
the Magic to win the series.
Yeah.
But I'm simply saying that this has become a much more difficult, in Bobby's defense, series. I think Bobby was wrong to assume a fully healthy Celtics team was going to struggle. But I think now, with the way things are shaking up
That's
here,
fair.
Tatum got hurt. Drew Holiday somehow got hurt. Bobby, do you have any news on that? Because I don't know what the hell happened to
I
Holiday.
looked back to the whole game.
And now
I
all of a
didn't
sudden
see
it's a little bit
anything.
more competitive.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't know what happened there, and Joe didn't clarify it before the game, so who knows how long he could end up missing with that. He obviously didn't warm up here, got to the arena late in Tatum fashion, the way Tatum did last game here. So yeah, I don't know what happened there. Again, I look back, didn't see any discomfort. He was still driving to the rim with a minute left in that last game there.
I don't
so
get it.
That's
at
a
all.
factor, and we said it, John. If he was going to go down, if he was going to be out, that was your main guy on Paolo. And I thought Paolo hurt them in this one. Got to the free throw line a ton. And that's a big change in this game, too, is that didn't happen in the first 2 games. It happened here tonight, especially for Franz, who got there 12 times and 26 for the Magic in general in this game. If they're going to get there, it's a much different series, too. But, you're right, John. The first 2 games, you look at it, it didn't look like Orlando could compete, all things considered. But they kept it close. And that, to me, at least gave them some hope of stealing 2 games at home. And again, you haven't won a game here since 2022. There's still going to be some, lingering physical concerns, I'm sure, going into a game 4 and questions on that front. The most optimistic thing out of this one, obviously, is that Tatum's not limited at all, it looks like. I know he struggled down the stretch there, but the start he got into this game should be the most encouraging thing for anyone out of this game, is that he's going to be Tatum, it looks like, from now on, unless there's any aggravation or something like that. So that's a real positive you can pull from this game. You mentioned the other one, John, that you played the worst game you have in 4 years, and you're still 1 possession away late there. But I think they've consistently made Boston's offense look miles from what it usually is, right? They're not getting the threes up. They're not able to get the all-around performances from the outside contributors that they usually are there. And they just end up playing a lot of one-on-one, John. They've been drawn into that. It's great
it's brutal
when it's working, but by and large, it hasn't worked for them in this one. And so, listen, the biggest strength Boston still has going for it, John, is their defense is great. And it's going up against a bad offense. So those combinations are going to make you win this series. But I think the Magic's ability to make the Celtics look bad on offense is going to keep this series close from this point on. And next game's a huge swing game, right? Probably be a similar one to this one. And then if you're up 3-1 going home, you're probably closing that thing out. But you go home 2-2, you got a real series here.
I would like to report some breaking news that Jalen Milroe just went to the Seattle Seahawks. Shadur Sanders is still available as we continue to trickle down here.
How good? Yeah.
Into this draft. It's freaking unreal. Yeah.
I mean, Lamar
Crazy.
Jackson slid,
So,
but this is
did you
next
guys-
level.
Did you guys hit on the big thing out of this one?
Depends.
Is that like a criticism?
I'm just curious. I thought the biggest
the-
thing, and I'll give Noah
Give us
credit
a
for this
hint.
because
Give
she
us a
said it
hint.
to me
Give us
right
a
when,
hint.
what happened late.
Well, I ran through the whole late scenario. I'm curious which part of the late scenario bothered you the most.
The not fouling.
JB
Jaylen.
not playing.
Oh, Jaylen.
Bobby, let me ask you a question because I'm so glad you asked the question. Like,
I'll
I'm not
give
saying
Noah
you-
credit for that one too because she said it to me right when we came off the court.
but I'm not saying like
of you to
you
do
should have followed, but somebody's got to follow there, like because you asked
I
the
botched
question.
the follow. I'm so bad with the follows.
No, right. Don't ask your next question. Ask the
Right.
follow to the first question that didn't get answered properly. And I'm not
didn't
giving you
answer it, did
report. I'm not giving you
No,
reporting
you're right.
full on tips here, but I wanted to know that. I'm glad you asked. It's like, why didn't he play? He had 5 fouls. We all know that. Still, why didn't he play?
Right.
Like,
Okay.
and
Yeah,
that's kind of what
he's got 6 to work with.
Right.
I was
we know
asking that in a
but like,
roundabout way,
how
right?
much of an impact can he make when you put him in with 30 seconds left?
I don't
Yeah,
know
what are you
they
saving him
expected.
for?
They had 1 possession left, and it ended up being that little white
We
running
have one
transition,
position.
take the 2 down
Nobody
4,
does
yeah.
that. A guy has 5 fouls. You rip the Band-Aid off and you bring him in. You don't take him out with
They
4
had an
minutes.
opportunity with 3 minutes left on the challenge. I was stunned that they didn't bring him in there.
So that's some stupid shit. Yeah, we talked about
And
that.
that's- That's been his philosophy, right? To let guys play through it. I feel like that's been the team's philosophy through a couple coaches now. I feel like, especially in a big spot like that, if he fouls out, he fouls out. You took him out of the game as the coach. So that one didn't make sense, especially with Porzingis is limited. And that's where Noah and I disagreed when we were talking about it. She thought they should have pulled Porzingis. I would have kept him out there and pulled Pritchard, who didn't do anything in this game. But there were cases in both directions, and that's why I was getting at in the second
Everyone
question
was
there.
bad.
They stayed bigger, there with Porzingis and Horford, and they were big the whole game. They did some Cornet Porzingis stuff. Horford wasn't great in this game. He was out there for most of the night. And, I'll give Joe this. Drew being out's a big factor there as you're shuffling lineups and stuff. But when you're down a starter,
three guards
take
when
a
Pritchard's
second.
ineffective, or double big, when nobody's effective.
But either way, in that scenario, Brown's going to be out there. I mean, you're missing one starter
That's
in this
the
game.
lock.
And you took the second starter off the floor.
Yeah, that's the lock. We talked about Porzingis.
It was a mistake.
As bad a game as he's played in Boston, as bad a healthy game as he's played in Boston, really, really, really brutal stuff. Bobby caught up with him in the locker room. We're going to listen to some of that right here.
Actually, it looks like we're going to have someone at the podium right now, John.
We are?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Movement?
I saw an
shadows?
Arm. I saw an arm.
Shadows and dust. Let's go to it. Good call, Bobby.
Jason, what went into today with your wrist and the development and being able to play?
Just dealing with pain tolerance. Just the treatment and stuff has been progressing every day, and felt like I could try to go out there and play.
How did it feel out there? And at one point, you had a celebration grabbing your wrist as well. You felt okay?
I was out there, so I was dealing with it. It was cool.
Jason, you're the third quarter. What happened in the third quarter? You guys had probably your worst offensive quarter of the season. What went into that?
Yeah, we just got stagnant. Some we're gonna watch film on tomorrow, and we just gotta play with some more pace and movement. That's when we just at our best.
You've said that. I mean, I think that's kind of like the prevailing thought. You guys have to play with more pace and movement and tempo and all of that stuff. But it's been 3 games, and you guys really have not been able to do that for as much as you usually have. What's Orlando been able to do to kind of keep you from getting into that high ball movement type of offense that you're used to?
Well, I just think today, in the third quarter, we weren't getting stops.
Where'd he go?
It's tough to play against
Jimmy, you can't do that
every single time or majority of the quarter. And give them credit. They compete. They play hard. They got some defenders.
I was like,
I think it just.
I'm looking at the draft.
Stops first.
I was looking at the back of my
transition and get our pace up. I think we will next game.
Jason, what did you see on the play with Banchero when you knocked the ball away from him and you thought they called an 8-second violation? Like, what did you think happened? What did you see from that?
I thought it was an 8-second violation. I thought we got the turnover. Thought it was our ball.
It's a moot
point.
What
did the officials tell you when you talked?
Nothing I wanted to fucking hear, so it's cool.
Whoa.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, it was your wrist the other night, and it was Kristaps' forehead in game 2. And tonight, Jaylen gets flagrant fouled and lands on his wrist. Like, how can you guys respond to their physicality? It's obviously borderline, but what can you guys do for the rest of the series to kind of try to save yourself?
Where'd you go, Gary?
Just get up. Ain't that what Joe told me? Get up, move on to the next play, protect yourself, just focus on the game.
Do you guys have to do anything back? You guys have to be as physical with them, or can you counter that?
Just compete, play at a high level, keep it basketball, but, just be physical. It's the playoffs. Shit happens from time to time.
Jason, on those lines of physicality, what about tonight was different from the first 2 games in their physicality? It feels like they've been obviously playing a physical series, but it feels like they upped it again tonight. What about their physicality in this game do you think affected your guys' offense, especially in that third quarter? I just think, they went on a couple runs offensively and it just builds confidence. We was playing against a set defense. So I think our defense, our offense really just kind of made it tough on our defense, and they had it going in that third quarter. So I think that's, kind of just what happened.
Kristaps said that mucking it up is sort of what teams have to do against you guys. What do you have to do to kind of better deal with that physicality so you're not turning the ball over all the time, so that they're not able to impact you as much as it seemed that they did tonight?
I said it earlier. We got to get stops. We play in transition. use our speed to our advantage. Just get some more movement off ball, things like that.
And you brought up the get up thing. What did you think of that from Joe? And kind of what was your reaction to that? Obviously, it's kind of just Joe being Joe, but what was your reaction to that?
I wasn't tripping. I wanted to get up. That shit was just a lot worse than Joe thought it was. But it's cool. We move on and just get ready for the next game.
Jayson, what can you say about the performance of Franz tonight and then those 2 baskets clutch down the stretch that he had on KP?
He made some shots. I don't really focus on the other team right now. It's just what can we do to get better and prepare for the next game.
Jayson Tatum, appropriately salty, I will say, there.
Mm-hmm.
In this post-game press conference. Didn't like the 8-second call, though it did look like he touched the ball and the ball entered the front court. So I don't know that there was anything that was one of the least questionable things that happened all game. The Derek White situation was weirder on that out of bounds thing. But again, that's that. We'll pop off Tatum here and we'll bring it back to Jimmy and me. Here we are hanging out.
Great.
We were going to go to we're going to get to Porzingis. Porzingis was really good and really candid. I think Brown's stepping up, so we're going to hear from him first, and then we'll jump back in. Pats are on the clock also.
Jaylen, they've obviously played a very physical series, but it feels like they upped it again tonight. What about their physicality do you think changed in this game, and how did it affect you guys?
Yeah, definitely was a physical game. They got away with a lot. So you can get away with it. I would do it too. So that definitely affected us, but we'll be ready for game 4.
Jaylen, you went 41 minutes in the last game there. How did you come out of that? Obviously, we're back on the injury report tonight. And what was the process like of getting ready to go and then playing through this game?
I'm just taking it one day at a time. That's it,
And what happened on the play? Cole pulled you down there, the flagrant foul. How did you come out of that play?
I fell on, dislocated my index finger.
Jeez.
But I got 9 more, so I'm all right.
Was it just your fingers? It was your wrist, or was it the kind of whole hand?
It was my finger on my left hand.
It's the finger, Jason's elbow, wrist. Kristaps taking the elbow to the forehead. Like they're taking you guys out one by one. It seems like. What can you guys do to respond to that, and not without crossing the line?
I mean, I don't know. It might be a fight breakout or something because it's starting to feel like it's not even basketball, and the refs is not controlling the environment
at all.
So it is what it is. If we want to fight it, out, we can do that. We can fight to go to the second round.
You guys had the second fewest turnovers in the regular season tonight, 21, that led to 26 points for them. How much did you think it was self-inflicted compared to dictated by their physicality?
It was all, I give credit to them. It was all their physicality and stuff. You can't call every foul. I had some turnovers. I had 2 offensive fouls in the third quarter that, I disagree with, but that added to it, and a kickball violation as well. But, my team needs me to take care of the basketball. The team needs JT to take care of the basketball. We got to be better.
Jim, when they are playing like this physical style, what's the best response for you? Is it like responding to force with force? Is it sticking to make sure you don't get out of what you guys do best? Like what is the best response for you guys?
Responding with force, meeting your line, playing our basketball. That's the key. We know that, how good we are and that, what we can do, but we just gotta fight. We gotta meet the line, meet the level next game, and we'll be more prepared.
You guys talk a lot about meeting their physicality. It seemed like you were trying to with all of those drives in that second half. What were you seeing on those drives? You mentioned the 2 offensive fouls, but just in general, when you
comment wins the day.
What was the kind of
I don't have a problem with the game being physical, but it seems like when I use my physicality, You know, it goes in. I get called in the opposite direction. That's where my frustration was, and just a tough whistle tonight. Maybe next game will be better, but then start the third quarter with those 2 offensive fouls. When I feel like, you know, the physicality, you are allowing, you know, guys to hand check and let it go on both sides. Then, you know what I mean? But other than that, you know, it was just a tough whistle for me tonight, and we just got to be ready for Game 4.
He's looking at his finger. He's looking at his finger. Oh no. He's counting them.
What's the question?
He averages one of those per post game.
I'm just taking it one day at a time.
You said if a fight breaks out, then you'll fight it out for the right to get to the second round. Is there a part of you that kind of likes it when a game gets physical like that? And
sure, yeah, I do. I don't have a problem with it. Just don't call an offensive foul when a dude is trying to jump on my back or whatever the case may be. Let it go. If you're gonna let it go on defense, let it go on offense too. But you know, just a tough whistle tonight. You know, Orlando played well. So we'll be ready for Game 4. You know, still we had every opportunity to win this game, and you know we came up short. But you know, we'll be ready for the next one.
Are you trying to make it a fight? Are you trying to get it away from being a fight? Like what do you want? What energy do you want to bring to Game 4?
We're supposed to be playing basketball. That's what it's about. Playing basketball, getting up and down. But you know, the flagrant fouls is piling up. You know what I mean? It is what it is, but you know.
Protect the superstars, NBA. That's what
You just gotta be ready for Game 4.
He wanted to keep talking. Why'd you guys end that? He's salty. He wants to talk. The fighting, the combat sash. That's never gonna. It's gonna kill me.
That got you good. There's Noah.
There's Noah. She looks ready to fight. Hi, Noah.
Yeah.
Noah, get on the show. Noah.
She just put on her combat.
Can you hear us? Noah.
She cannot hear us. That's not how this works.
That was good. Good stuff from JB there. We will hear
Hey,
from...
I mean, you can...
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, we'll hear from KP as well. Got to pay some bills, though, so I want to tell the folks at home about our pals. Did we say Game Time?
We're saying it right now. Game Time.
Yes. You do the read. Can you do it?
Sure. Download the Game Time app today. You create an account. You use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. We've got NBA. There's gonna be a Game 5 now, John.
There is.
So if you were kicking yourself because you didn't get to one of the first 2 games of this series, hop on Game Time, create an account, and you'll get $20 off your tickets if you use the code CLNS. That's gonna be a fun game. Game 5 is gonna be fun. We think it's going to be an elimination game. Bobby probably thinks it's going to be a 2-2 series.
Yeah.
Going back. Either way, there's going to be a lot of energy in that building. There's a lot of pent-up anger, and it's not even pent up. It's just outward now. There's a lot of emotion and anger between these two teams. The fans are going to be invested in it. So jump on Game Time. Use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. And if you don't want to watch basketball, go check out the Red Sox.
Yeah.
Patriots are beefing up their offense in this draft. You might want to get
You're going to get in on it. Tell them
Yeah.
about the features, Jimmy. All-in pricing, panoramic views from your seats, all that good stuff. Download the app, create an account, use code CLNS, $20 first if your first purchase. Terms do apply. I'll throw it up on the stage. Here it is, Game 5. There is a Game 5, and we've got
131, 113 gets you in the door.
Gets you in the door.
Plus fees, but that's okay because the $20 off is going to offset that. So you're good.
You're good.
That's a steal. And I bet you those prices, some people, they may not have had time to adjust their prices yet. So get them while they're hot, you know?
Yeah.
When is that game? That's Tuesday? Looks like it's Tuesday.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
good stuff.
okay.
Good stuff. We'll check that out on Tuesday, and we'll have the whole gang here. I'm going to that game. I'm going, Jimmy. I was supposed to go to game 2, but I had My class got moved because of Marathon Monday. We had a lot of problems, but we're okay. We're okay here. Bobby Manning is jumping back in. Before he does, I want to get to Kristaps Porzingis. I'll put Bobby on the stage, but Bobby, we were going to listen in on Kristaps.
Well,
we
wait.
will. What?
Can we talk about? Does he want to say something about Jaylen?
All right,
Brown?
first
Does he
off, let's
say-
talk about Jaylen. You were in on that post game. What'd you think of Jaylen responding to the physicality? And again, I led the show with this just because I wanted to talk about it a little bit. I think the officiating is disgracefully bad.
It's been bad.
They don't have control of the series, and you can't allow teams to foul in both ways. I think
Nonstop.
Nonstop, and then call a fair game late when the calls matter and stuff like that. So like, it's creating a weird environment there. But like, there's constant contact. So I like it. I let them play basketball, but it is definitely like over the top grabby. You know, we're not talking about like, oh, they're
And they're leading injuries.
And now you've got injuries too, nonstop, which is not what the NBA wants. And you look
it's
throughout the league. You look at Jimmy Butler, you look at John Morant. Like they are letting them play, and it's having a negative impact because goony, shitty teams that aren't going to be here in round 2 are knocking stars out that are supposed to be playing into June. That's bad business. But generally speaking, I like them to put the whistle away and not call the ticky-tack shit. This is just on the other end of the spectrum, so it's bizarre. But
shout out to my guy here. Oh, wrong guy.
But when they talk about it, the combat sash was a better comment.
You met Ren tonight?
Yeah,
You
shout
met
out to
this
him.
guy?
Yeah, he was right by the media section. He was wearing
He's
a
a
phenomenal
regular on the
shirt.
show.
MC
Love
Ren,
that.
yeah.
Phenomenal shirt. Got that in the merch store, which, by the way, 20%. Oh, actually, I don't know if they are, but check out the merch store.
Sorry,
the
John,
code
we
might
interrupted
still
your
work.
take.
14 more.
No, it's fine.
But yeah, I mean, I thought
MC Ren is automatic. Yeah.
I thought Anthony should have been ejected on that play, and you hear the
MFer?
explanation too.
Who starts
the follow
static.
through, and the way they described it, you're like, oh, flagrant 2, but they never really go there. So it's just flagrant ones piling up, as Jaylen said there, and I think it's smart to lobby for calls and officiating adjustments and stuff like that over the course of a series. But that was a similar tone.
Writing it down.
That was a similar tone. Kristaps struck too.
Well, let me ask you this, Bobby.
I want Bobby's take.
When you start talking about it, isn't that bad because you're letting them know that they're affecting you? That's what I don't like. Like people are like, "Great job, Jaylen." He said it. I think that makes them sound like kind of babies a little bit. Like you shouldn't acknowledge that they're getting to you and with the fouls and this and that, unless you're lobbying. That Joe should have gotten a tech tonight potentially, and Joe should have gotten a fine. Joe should be getting a fine at the podium right now. He's got to throw himself in front of that grenade. Like he has to toss himself on it. Don't let the players go out there and say that stuff. If I'm Joe Mazzulla, I'm out there and I would have gotten my money's worth tonight and absolutely gone off on the officiating just to get it out there and mention it's a real thing, and we've noticed. Joe's a tough guy. He doesn't want to do it, but now you're left with Jaylen having
He's wanted them to get up,
like that.
right?
Yeah. He's saying get up. Yeah.
Right. So I guess the line there is that you can advocate for more calls, and that often works.
To say it. I want Joe to say it for him. That's all.
I don't really care who says it if it's impactful. And the problem is that they're getting a lot of free throws. They're getting a lot of foul calls. So do they want someone to get ejected? Maybe that's, what this could lead to, but that's a long shot if they're not going to eject Anthony for what he did there. And I thought they should have in that moment. But you're getting the flagrant ones. You're getting a lot of free throws. So, what did Cole Anthony say after the KCP stuff? We get them complaining. That obviously didn't work going into game 2. But I'm sure that's how they're going to feel going into game 3. They're doing this intentionally, right? It's the way they narrow the talent gap here. And it has worked. And Kristaps, rather than lobbying for calls or whatever we're talking about right now, said we have to do that. We should foul every time. We should try to get away with stuff. That was a big message of his presser there. I don't think you guys have played it yet, have you?
We can.
It was pretty good. It was worth a watch.
Here he is.
With inbounds with 0.3 seconds left.
I mean, we only had the option to tap it in, and just didn't really. I couldn't even get off the ground on that one to try to tap it in. So I don't know. I have to see the replay, but we had options to catch this game a little bit, but we just didn't play up to our level, and myself especially. So it stings. It stings real bad.
How were they able to limit you tonight?
Yeah, they're being aggressive, being handsy. Just creating a little bit of chaos, and some of my shots and some of my opportunities, maybe they make me rush just a tiny bit, and they get that little advantage, and some of the shots don't go in, and that creates the result.
There's been a lot of talk about physicality in the series, and they seem to be at a little bit higher level. How do you guys respond to that? Is it with more force? Is it finding other ways to do you guys do better? Like, what's the way you can combat that successfully?
No, yeah, we have to also bring our game and our physicality. That's what teams need to do, and to compete with us. And tonight they got us tonight, but we'll bounce back.
What led to the third quarter and the struggles?
Yeah, we just got off to a bad start, honestly, and they again, I have to rewatch it, but they just pulled away. They just pulled away, and we expected to make our run, and they did a good job of stopping us. So just wasn't a good rhythm game for us. I felt like we just couldn't really have a good offensive rhythm like we used to. Some of it is them doing a good job for sure, but some of it is just on us to do what we do better.
How impactful is the way they're able to take away threes from you guys? You guys obviously always have a lot of threes in this series. You're not going to be taking as many, it looks like. What's the impact of that on you guys?
Oh, they're definitely running us off very aggressively. We have to be smart about it. Some of them, still good looks, and we have to take them. But some of them is, let them fly by and then make the next play. So, you got to find that balance, but they're definitely, on the higher end of aggressiveness, closing out, so we have to make them pay for it.
How difficult has it been for you to find a shooting rhythm? I don't think you've hit a three yet.
No, it's my shots feeling a little janky right now. I'm not gonna lie, but I have to keep shooting. What else I'm gonna do? I'm gonna keep shooting, and but it's things, man. This game, I have to take accountability. Like I played like shit, and we still had opportunities to win, So for sure, we'll get together again and correct some of our mistakes, and we'll bounce back.
Franz kind of sought out switches against you, two of those last three layups. How do you kind of approach that matchup, and what can you do in that situation?
I felt he hit some tough ones all game long, going to his right, but that's what he does best, and that second one too, I think, was pretty tough. So yeah, we know he wants to get it right. We know what he wants to do. Again, I just half a step quicker here, and maybe I'll block it. So I just got to be better.
How do you guys, as a team, find a rhythm when there's whistles on, every other play?
Yeah, that's the battle that we're facing. Yes, whistle, sometimes no whistle. We just have to play through all of these chaotic moments within the game. That's the game. That's the game. But we've seen it already before, and tonight they got us. They got one. So again, we regroup.
They got one, Bobby.
We come back.
You said that's how teams have to play against you guys. What did you see them do to try to muck it up, to try to make the game a little uglier than you guys are used to?
Just borderline fouling. That's what it is. Borderline fouling and fouling. And some of it they call it, of course, and some of it they don't, and that's how it's going to be. We have to accept the reality, and also we can use that. It's not that there's only one way; it's both ways, So we also have to, for sure, we get away with some stuff that they're scratching their heads, So it's just how the game is right now. It is a pretty big difference, from regular seasons. You have to make that adjustment as a player and not expect anything, and just go out there and play through contact, play through everything.
Do you feel any lingering effects from the shot to the head?
Oh, sorry. I cut off the last question. So Porzingis, tough game, good accountability there. And look,
good one there. They asked him if the cut was affecting him, and he said it looked like it, huh?
Yeah. You delivered it better. But so again, I like that. you got to acknowledge the physicality. I still think that, again, rather than talk about the refs, and why did they win game 2, Bobby? Like, they got physical, they played tougher. They embraced it on their own end. And in this game, they let the Magic take out of the rhythm. That's the number one thing. I mean, like we talked about Ime, that was Ime's philosophy when he's here, and it's still Ime's philosophy over in Houston. Make them call it. And then if they don't, amp it up, start at a 9. If they don't call it, go to a 10, go to an 11. It doesn't matter. Just keep pressing until they call it, and make you stop. But otherwise, beat the shit out of them. And
Right.
that's how it's going to be.
And they don't
so
want to
really-
foul, right?
Yeah.
That's been their approach. They don't want to foul, so they're leaning away from that defensively.
So the Celtics don't do that, and they don't want to do that. So it is a little bit different. So you can't do that. But no matter what, even if the refs do call it, it is taking the Celtics out of their rhythm. And the only way that you can avoid that, Bobby, I think, going back to what we talked about before, is the ball's got to zip around a lot more. The amount of times they got things going late in the clock, when you've got guys who are going to put hands all over you, that's a recipe for disaster. That's how Tatum ended up with a lot of contested fadeaway shots, because he was just getting pushed out of the thing. You're going into the lane.
Shots in traffic.
Yeah, just that's going to result in bad shots because you're not getting calls. They're letting them bump you. They're letting them knock you off course, and you're always going to end up with the type of shot they want you to take if that's what you want to do. So you can't play into their hands both ways. You have to do something, and the only way it changes is you got to embrace movement, zip the ball around, and they just stopped doing that the entire second half.
Yeah, I saw one 3-pass possession all game. I'd have to look back, but I only saw one of those that I can remember. So, yeah, they got out of their element. They didn't. This is one of those games, John, in 2021, 2022, where they're just out of control, turning it over like crazy, frazzled at times. It's been a long time since we've seen them look like that, Jimmy.
Agreed. And if we could, I wanted to get more of your take on, because you brought up Jaylen right off the bat when you came on the show, and I want to know why you think Joe handled Jaylen the way he did at the end of this game, and just your thoughts on some of Jaylen's answers, I guess, after this one. It feels like, is he getting taken out of the game? I don't mean literally taken out of the game, but is he getting caught up in A, his own health, and B, the physicality of Orlando, where he just can't focus on what he does right, what he does well?
The physicality for sure. Yeah. You heard him, complain about the calls and this and that. The health, he's pretty adamant not to make an excuse about, right? He doesn't even want to talk about it right now. So that I don't think. What is he
thinking about it?
He could be. I thought I saw him come up a little lame early after the dunk. I thought he looked like himself in this game, but he struggled. And I thought he pressed a little too much when things got going in a bad direction there.
Why wouldn't he play late in the game? I mean, obviously the 5 fouls, but I mean,
I wish I asked him. Was it health? Could that have been a factor? I don't know. Joe obviously didn't answer it, right?
Because he got paralyzed. Because he
wasn't playing.
He made a mistake. No, Joe.
Oh, Joe.
Joe just, I think, just had a senior moment. He waited too long on it. I'm not sure exactly what he wanted to do there. It doesn't.
An opportunity, maybe. Yeah.
I don't know what you're seeing out of that lineup that you had out there that you would think in any world, even if Brown was not playing well or limited, which again, even if he was not nearly enough so to not clearly be someone you needed out there at that time. It made no sense at all. Anyway, we're going to welcome in Noah in just a second here and get a little bit more coverage here on this Game 3 loss to the Orlando Magic. First off, we want to tell you about our partners over at LinkedIn. And as a small business owner, sometimes you don't have the luxury of clocking out early. Business is on your mind all the time, 24/7. So when you're hiring, you need a partner that grinds as hard as you do. And that, of course, is LinkedIn Jobs. We use it all the time here at CLNS Media, and we found several of our best, most qualified employees over the years through LinkedIn. Makes it super easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, get qualified candidates, and again, Find out why 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring today. Find your next great hire on LinkedIn. All you have to do, go to linkedin.com/garden. You get to post your job for free. You can only do that again if you go to linkedin.com/garden and post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. But yeah, check out LinkedIn. Super. Obviously, everybody knows what LinkedIn is, but it is key if you are out there looking for somebody and qualified candidates. That's where you're going to find them. LinkedIn.com/garden. Yes.
Can we? Bobby's on the move. Can we toss him in? Just see where he's
Let's see.
walking right now.
Bobby Cam.
Bobby Cam. He's literally on the move right now.
This
Yep.
is my biggest nightmare when you guys do this.
I try not to do it to you, Noah, because I know I know you don't love it.
When do we do
It
this?
was
This is
one
the
time.
first time.
It was one time. It was one time, but it was very much like I was just very startled by it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
We won't
It's
do
been
it
really
again.
hard to find a spot. I'm in a terrible spot right now, but
Looks like no, that's a good spot.
I have my computer is on another
Oh,
chair.
there's Brady
and
Bunch.
I'm
I forgot this one. Yeah.
Brady
There we go.
Bunch. Noah, welcome in. What a game.
Ugh, this game sucked.
Let's just leave it on Bobby.
Yeah. Oh, look at him. He's gonna sit at center court. Well, power moves only.
There are tables there. There was no plug. That's why I had to move. I
Oh,
wish
he's
better
gonna
luck.
find that out.
Yeah. All right. We'll
Maybe
go
he
back.
doesn't need a plug.
We'll go back to we'll remove
Bobby
Bobby and
Cam.
we'll go to us. What's going on, guys? Bobby's getting situated. No, why don't you give us your kind of big takeaways tonight?
After her favorite game, this is her least favorite.
There was so much not to like here. It's amazing.
Oh my
And if you
God.
think you're getting away without a blame, we need 2 blame pies
Oh my
tonight.
God.
And you know what?
Hope you're
You're
hungry.
gonna see me. You guys are gonna be happy to see this. For the first time since I started covering this team, I'm ready to criticize a coaching decision.
Okay, Jaylen Brown.
It sounds like a
I
slice of the
was-
pie is coming up.
Yes, and this is okay. I'll disclaim it in character. I felt like taking Jaylen out in those last 3 minutes was the most infuriating decision that Joe made because one, Kristaps was just such a liability tonight. I'm sorry to say that. He said it himself. Defensively, offensively, nothing was working about him being on the floor in this game. And Jaylen wasn't perfect. He definitely had his share of turnovers
Sure.
and everything. He didn't have a great game, but he was key in getting them back into it on both ends. And this is not just a Joe thing. This is 28 out of 30 coaches would have probably done the same thing. And they're all wrong, in my opinion, because he effectively fouled out Jaylen instead of the
Too
referee
long.
fouling
Too long.
Jaylen.
I don't think a coach waits
Yes.
that long. You brought him
Well-
back for the last possession. That's an insane
Well,
amount of time.
he
You
was-
might
he
bring him
was
back with
lurking
2
there.
minutes left. Yeah.
He was lurking for like 90 seconds and they were waiting for a dead ball. But Mark Dagnall said this earlier in the year. I think it was Chet Holmgren that had 5 fouls for like the entire last portion of the fourth quarter. And somebody asked him like, why did you not pull him out? And he never fouled out. And he said, I'm not going to foul my player out. The referees are going to foul my player out. But I'm by taking my player out in the most critical part of the game, like I'm fouling him out. And Jaylen effectively was fouled out with 4 minutes to go and he wasn't. And so it's not the only reason they lost. There was a million reasons they lost, but it felt very controllable. And when he came back in, KP had already been isolated twice by France, and he had missed a bunny that he had been missing all night. So it just was like, I'm saying it because I very rarely think that Joe does something wrong, and I very rarely feel like I really wish this one decision had been made differently. Like I usually kind of defer to those guys, but this is the one school of thought that I think really bit them here. And I don't know. I think we might have had a different outcome if Jaylen plays those final 4 minutes because he was making good things happen and Kristaps was not, and he could have been out there. Like he wasn't fouled out. So, it happens. It's not. There's other
Whether it
things
was
that went wrong,
whether it was
but
Kristaps or Pritchard.
I was excited to have a grievance for you guys. That's why I was going to share.
I'll be honest. This is a big night for us.
It is. Bobby made it.
Big step.
Yeah.
For you, Noah.
No, that was a good take by Noah. And like I said, I agreed with her when we were talking about it upstairs, but I would have kept Kristaps, probably pulled Pritchard there. I don't know what Pritchard's doing for you in that spot, but it doesn't matter. Jaylen's going to be out there either way. I actually thought, Kristaps, we just heard him, Noah, talking about like the hesitations he had there. There were some moments where he had guys lined up where it looked like he had shots and just didn't follow it through on a shot or waited too long to get a shot off. I know you talked a little bit about that too. I think that, as we're stacking up 3 games here, is my biggest surprise from this series is how ineffective he's been overall. And I know he had the great game too, and that moment there, that wasn't his best game either. Game 1, he was really rough, and this one was pretty bad too, as Noah said there. that's the problem here. And maybe that's just this matchup. But, I wrote about, like, this is his playoff run here. Like, he's the starting center now. He's a big part of what they do. You're going to leave him in a game late because he's your starter. That's just an automatic decision you're going to make there if you're Joe. And he has to come through. And again, tonight he didn't.
Yeah,
and I like him taking accountability for it. But at some point, he's got to be physical in this series. And I'll give credit to, one of the athletic writers there, Josh Robbins, who I had on the show. When I was talking to him before the series, I was like, Porzingis is going to own this team. Like, they're putting guards on him. He's just going to eat their lunch. Like, you saw him do it during the year. Like, this is an awful matchup for the Magic against Porzingis. And they've owned him. And they are putting guards on him. They are putting smaller players on him. And they're just forcing him into bad shots. And he hasn't been able to physically overpower those guys. And I don't know why. The Magic are just beating them up. And I don't know, whether you want to make excuses with the fouling and this and that. End to end, minute to minute, who's been the more physical team? Who's asserted their will in this series so far? The Celtics had a nice rebounding half, but the Magic have kicked their ass on the boards in large. They've gotten into the Celtics' head physically. They've forced up and down Boston's lineup guys to look nothing like themselves. And John, that's why, like, I don't know how you can sit here and be super confident that the Celtics are going to take care of the series easily. Like, they're getting their ass kicked.
Yeah, and they're still, again, they're questionable officiating, a horrible game.
I don't care about the refs. You're the best team in the league. Go out there and play.
If I'm going to list things, you can't stop me after the first thing, okay?
Oh,
Yeah, only
come on.
John.
You never interrupt us,
Only
John.
John
I'm
can cut us off.
listing. I'm listing. I got a
Only
list
John
of
can
things.
do that.
I got
Okay.
a full list. Bobby, again, could you possibly do worse than the Celtics did tonight? Their worst offensive game. You're going to give Orlando credit for it. Shaky officiating, shaky coaching decisions from Joe Mazzulla, and you're still in a position to win this game on the road, playing about as bad as you can possibly play. Like, I don't know how you leave this thinking like, they're in trouble. You just leave it thinking like, that sucked, and then you
They're a
move
little
on to the
rattled.
next game. Yeah.
You don't think
The
they're a
fact they
little
only lost
rattled
by
right now?
2 was I used the word rattled once in like December, and people haven't gone over it, so I'm not even going to use that word. But I think the fact they lost this game by 2 is a good sign ultimately, because they were so outplayed in that second half, and still they were right there. Like, they really were just a few plays away. So on one hand, like, yes, they were outplayed, and I think the rebounds, the turnovers were egregious. I mean, that's the live ball. Like, I haven't seen, since I started covering the team last year, I haven't seen the Celtics turn the ball over like that. But you do feel a little confident that, like, despite all that, they only lost by 2. Like, they were right there. And a lot of guys struggled individually. They struggled as a team. They struggled on the glass. Like, Franz had a great game.
Yeah, I mean, they lost by 2, but they were down, like 6 with 3 minutes left. So they made up some ground late. They were down 6 with 4:07 left. So they were climbing back in the final minutes of the game.
Yeah. And that's why I was so frustrated. I feel bad. I feel bad that I have such a strong opinion about this last 3 minutes thing. But this is, like, for the first thing I said, this is a thing that and coaches do across the league. And I just think in general, like, you put your best players on the floor and you let them foul out. That's why.
And that's not a Joe decision, though. I feel like he
No, but
leaves
everybody
guys out
does
there
it
to
though.
play
Like,
through
they all
stuff.
do it. They do it in college. They do it in high school. They do it in the NBA. Like, everybody does it because God forbid, in the last 2 minutes of the game, you don't have one of your best players. But sometimes those minutes before that are the ones that decide the game, and that's like the
He should have.
trade-off, I guess. But
He should
it's
have
not the
brought him
reason they
back
lost.
after the challenge.
Yeah,
But I think it was a significant reason. So he comes out at the 4-minute mark, and then Tatum gets the 3 free throws on the foul there. Magic caught timeout, so there's an opportunity. It was like 10 seconds later, but it was an opportunity to bring him back in at that point. Paolo misses, Tatum misses. You got that away from the play foul at that point. Paolo misses again, and then at that point, Pritchard's turning it over in the paint. That was a rough play. Tatum took a tough shot from the mid-range. So you're just going through all these opportunities here. At that point, there's 1:30 left. You call timeout. You finally bring him in at that point. And no, there was one possession left for Brown to be available for the rest of that game. And it was that white breakout down 4 where he just took the 2 that the Magic gave him. So in total, Brown wasn't a part of the offense for the final 4 minutes of the game, because the last possession obviously was the, heave lob play with like 0.3
Which
left there.
Porzingis
So
definitely got fouled on, by the way. I don't want to do the whole like officiating thing, but I didn't see it in real time. But I
you
rewatched
can't
that
give a
play.
foul with 0.3 on that. Now, should
You
there have been
can't
0.3? I
that,
don't
though.
know.
It looked like he got yanked down.
I don't really care if
Yeah.
you can't give a foul if it's that egregious. Like that wasn't like a ticky tack foul. They like this is what Jaylen was saying at the podium, like about at a certain point there are certain things you have to call. Like that is one of those things.
Right.
Yeah, I
It's
guess.
not again like they shouldn't have been in that position.
Yeah.
But
Noah, what
If
did
they
you think?
called everything, we would have been here 4 hours tonight.
Yeah, but that's not. That's,
yeah, but
I mean, that's not something that we're just like. That's not part of the discussion. You call what you're supposed.
with
You just
Bobby.
you call a normal game. Noah, what did you think of Tatum's performance tonight?
I mean, he had that great second quarter, great first half. The shooting looked good, generally speaking, but the turnovers were very out of character. Like some of the decision making, I don't know if it's just like the pressure. I honestly, some of it was perplexing to me. Like I couldn't really put my finger on why a couple of times he just passed the KCP or things like that. So, on one hand, 36 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. Like that's basically what Jaylen's stat line was in Game 3. But I felt like down the stretch he wasn't able to assert himself the way that he could beforehand. I don't think it's necessarily I don't think it was the wrist. I mean, I know he kind of was, he didn't say much about it post game. He seemed pretty healthy. So I just pause on the game. The biggest takeaway I had from today is that we thought Tatum might be out for a few weeks. I just think we can kind of move on from the Tatum wrist injury as far as I'm concerned. So that's a huge thing. But his game had a lot of ups and downs.
Wait a second. Didn't we move on from the Jaylen knee?
Yeah, but knees are different. I never feel the same way about a knee. Like a knee injury is always going to come and go, and you need pain injections and things like that. Like if Tatum, I don't see it. Why would Tatum's wrist get worse? Like, I don't know. I would be very surprised.
I don't
It
see
gets banged up again, maybe. I don't see it either, but
I'm moving on from Tatum's wrist.
I do wonder if it does affect something with him. I mean, I know he was able to score tonight, so I guess that's kind of a moot point. But I was concerned that the wrist was going to be stiff or in some level of pain where it was going to affect his shot. Didn't really see that tonight, but I do wonder with the turnovers if that has something to do with it. If he is thinking about it and trying to avoid it getting hit or trying to, avoid falling on it again. I wonder how much of it is in his head.
One of the first plays of the game.
Right.
So I was like, okay, he's feeling pretty good. He was dunking in warm-up lines. Like, he didn't seem like he was avoiding contact.
He looked fine.
Yeah.
He looked completely fine.
His wrist was probably as connected to turnovers as Porzingis' cut was to his game, as he joked about post-game. Like, it probably wasn't at all.
yeah,
Okay,
I
good.
feel like at least 2 of those were offensive fouls, right? So
Tatum?
those weren't sloppy turnovers, Tatum's, but
I don't think Tatum had
he
offensive
did
fouls.
have
I think
some
that was-
sloppy, or the travels rather. There were 2 travels in there. Brown had the 2
And a
offensive
carry.
fouls. Yeah. So
Which has nothing to do with
those,
his right wrist. Yeah. Carrying with his left
Yeah.
hand has, yeah.
Those are
Noah.
That's fair, John.
I
read
wasn't.
on-
Go ahead, Jimmy.
Well, what? Go, because I'm going to change the subject. So
No, I was going to say, because Noah mentioned it, I might have been a little quick to move off the Jaylen concern. I wouldn't say I wasn't concerned.
I don't think we can move on from any of these injuries. They're still going to be there.
But I was really bummed that he appeared on the injury report, because there's no reason to do that unless it starts barking again, which means, I think we have to accept that this might be the roller coaster of the entire postseason. We had, again, in our amateur, we don't know anything about what's going on with his body and nothing about medicine or science, so we're not really qualified to have takes, but a lot of us were like, okay, well, maybe his treatment helped and he'll be good for a little bit, and we'll see if, things wear off later on. One game after playing 41 minutes, which we were so excited about, and looking more athletic and explosive, which we were also excited about, he appears back on the injury report. Noah tweeted it, which the broadcast showed it quickly, but I saw it too. On the dunk, he immediately goes right. One again, neither of his dunks is he getting Jaylen levels over the rim. He's getting over the rim, but not monstrously so. But in this one, when he lands, he kind of bucks a little and he reaches down at his knee. So you knew there was something. He winced a little bit.
First
Not
quarter,
great.
right?
Yep. And so you saw it. It was there. It's clearly a thing. And then again, he answers in the post game. He's doesn't want to talk about it. He's like, it is what it is, which means it is what it is, which is a thing that we're going to have to keep dealing with, monitoring it. But I hate that, like, he was questionable, added to the injury report the day of a game right after playing the best game we've seen him play in a month and a half. So I guess we've seesawed back a little bit with the concern here, right?
Yeah, so I'm sure I overreacted in a positive way after game 3, so I'll own up.
I did. Yeah.
But I'll just say this, just Bobby, to your point about the wrist, knees are always going to be a problem. Like, I was the first person to say in February, like, if he has a knee thing, it's concerning. So we're not going to move on from it because it's impacting the way that he can jump. Even in game 3, I don't think honestly, I thought he did. And then when I rewatched it, I felt like he did not look completely, game 2, he did not look completely himself athletically.
I think during the regular season, we saw one good game, a less physically good game, and then back to go. Like, there were highs and lows.
Yeah, I'll just say, despite the fact that he clearly was in pain today, and there were moments where it was more obvious than other moments, I thought that he was effective as far as his health goes. Like, yeah, he had the turnovers and stuff, same with Tatum, but like he didn't look overly limited to me. He looked frustrated by the physicality and the officiating, and I think sometimes it got the best of him. And I didn't really phrase it well, but like I thought he was trying his best to match the physicality, and it just like wasn't working. Whether it was like he was the one that was fouling offensively or whatever, but I didn't watch this game and say he looked really compromised with his knee. Maybe I'm just so used to watching him at this point over the last few months that this just feels
It's been a while.
Yeah, but I'm not moving on from the knee thing. The knee thing is going to be a storyline probably until the summer, and maybe over the summer we'll find out what this really was or whatever. I have no idea. But the wrist feels like something that either people were saying maybe it's fractured or he's going to be out for a couple weeks or the series or there was rumors and whatever. And he missed one game. He was doubtful this morning, and I was thinking he might be doubtful now 5-6 games. Like, who knows, right?
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, he has this game. So big picture, that's one of my biggest takeaways from this game is that I don't think I'm going to be thinking about Tatum's wrist much more. And maybe the next game will be on the injury report again and I'll look like an idiot. But for now, I'm not going to worry about it.
He looked good. 7-12 start, 4 of 7 from 3 to start, I believe, right? Tailed off a little bit late, but I don't think it was wrist related. I think the problem with this series now is they're a team that relies on the 3, and the 3 isn't there at all right now. And I think part of it is that they're turning the ball over. So those are 3s missing that they could potentially have there in those possessions. But on the possessions where they do actually get a shot off, a lot of it's them being run off the line, them, in that mid-range area, trying to decide what to do. The Magic are collapsing at the rim as well. So they're getting stuck. And I feel like those are the shots Tatum took later where he got caught in between, a little indecisive. Jimmy and John were talking about how we haven't seen a lot of those like get downhill, pass, movement possessions that we see from this team at its best. And it's because the Magic have been able to defend them straight up. And, they're following at times when they don't want to let a guy blow by them. I think they've been very intentional with how they defended the Celtics here, taking risks to force those turnovers, not letting blow-bys happen, being willing to send them to the free throw line because it just slows things down a little bit. And the Celtics have to find a way to pick up the pace here. And this goes back to Jaylen too, Noah. And I said it going into this series, is he's the only guy on this roster who consistently pushes the ball. And I think that's the only answer they have to some of their offensive problems right now is to force more turnovers themselves, which obviously they didn't do this year, right? They're like bottom 2 in forcing turnovers, and get the ball going on the break. And for some reason, I still can't figure it out, Noah. They became one of the slowest teams in the league this year. Maybe it was partially Brown's, injury taking him out of transition. Maybe it's, Pritchard not getting enough opportunities to push the ball when he's out there. But for some reason or another, they became a slow team this year, and it's playing right into the Magic's hands because they want to play slow. They can't go up and down. They can't stop the Celtics when they're getting out on the break, and the Celtics just can't figure out a way to speed this game up right now.
Why is that?
They can't get live ball stops or live ball turnovers, or they're just bringing up the ball too slow. It's a combination of those two things. A lot of the Magic turnovers have been, throwing the ball out of bounds, offensive fouls themselves, stuff like that. I'd have to actually go back and look through them all, but the Celtics want to force more turnovers this year, and they weren't super successful with it. And this is a series where they need to do that a little bit. I think they could benefit from turning up the heat a little bit. They've defended Paolo one-on-one. They've given him matchups. They've tried to let him get his and just shut everybody else down. And that's worked to some degree, right? Like, the defense isn't the problem right now, but they haven't been able to turn defense into offense for some reason here. I don't know. Do you have any takes on that, Noah?
No, I mean, I will say that their offense has been great all year despite their pace being slow. So yes, this Magic team is a good half-court defense team, but despite the fact that they haven't been pushing the pace, they've still been an elite offensively, and I feel like what we saw today didn't even resemble their usual offense. So, like, yeah, I would love to see some more stuff in transition. A lot of that is going to come from their defense, but there was no movement, and a bunch of times there was guy. And again, like I really want to rewatch this game, but there were so many times where guys were pointing to Porzingis to move somewhere else from where he was, like pointing to Al to go somewhere else. Like, it seemed like there was
a lot of confusion.
A lot of confusion offensively of like telling guys where to go and people being in the wrong spots and somebody being trapped down low and nobody coming to the ball to help them. Like, they just seemed disconnected offensively. And I think it happened sometimes. And obviously the Magic's physicality, I mean, they didn't want to switch. They were, it was one of the most impressive defensive performances I've seen in a long time. And I do think that they got away with a lot of things they shouldn't have, but regardless of that, they did. So I'm more worried about their half-court offense. I'm sure they're going to try to find opportunities to push the pace, but their half-court offense is what made them magical over these past seasons. And I don't know. It was really painful to watch. Especially yeah.
Painful. Really, it was like
unrecognizable. Like, there were moments I was like, I can't believe that's the Celtics.
It literally was. We were saying it was like the last year of Brad. It was like it was so just dysfunctional, weird offense, just disjointed. My ball, your ball. The pace is one thing. There's zero movement at all, and I do think that plays into the hands of the Magic. If they're going to be mauling you on the way to the basket, and you start your possession with 10, 11 seconds left, and they're just knocking you off your spot, and you're not able to get where you want to go. Like, you can't initiate anything at that point, and I think that's what resulted in Tatum taking some less than optimal shots at really critical times, particularly late. I thought the one 93-91 was particularly bad there, in that one. And then Franz goes back and makes it, gives them a 4-point lead. Then Pritchard turns it over under the basket too. Dribble. Just too much dribbling, way too much dribbling. I don't know what it is that they're doing, just trying to beat the pressure one-on-one instead of trying to create a little bit more movement, which they didn't do it. They didn't do it all.
You know what I'll say, and I do have one more question I want to ask you guys, but I said going into the series, and I wanted them to play this team because this is what you're going to face against the Thunder, right? If it comes to that, and it's a way better version of this with a team that can actually score, with a team that actually has talent on par with yours. And this is what you're seeing right now against that kind of defense. So they have a long way to go, I think, to stack up to that level of competition right now. And, we'll see how they handle it the rest of the series. But this is a really good test for them. I think this is also a good answer to that question we asked going into the playoffs of, like, do you want to go the hard route and potentially come out of this series in, pieces physically, with your health? Or do you want to go the easy route and have a little bit less resistance and more rest going into round 2 and all that kind of stuff? But I've leaned, handle this test now, and you might look back on the struggles they've gone through in this series and say, all right, that helped them prepare for a Thunder-like team down the line here.
And that's a good segue for me, because I do want to apologize for a take that I strongly disagree with. I told Bobby, and I said this on my podcast as well, but
apology cam coming up here.
Apology cam.
Yeah, and
John,
you're not going to get many of these, so really relish it. Yeah, no, I'm owning up to it. I felt like the Magic, had this reputation of being like a fouling team and a fouling team. And
a little too much apology cam.
That's how they work.
I feel like you just put me on a stage on myself.
That's how they work.
It's shame.
Okay. I can do it. Shame. You need me by myself. I can do it.
No.
Go ahead.
No. I hate that. Okay.
So basically, I strongly believe that, just because they foul a lot, that's not going to result in injuries. And most injuries are non-contact plays anyways. But having watched 3 of these games, I do think they need to wrap the series up, because it does feel like every couple minutes somebody's at risk of actually getting hurt, whether it's
there's going to be a fight next game, Jaylen said.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be
Derek White ended up in the freaking stands.
Jaylen really plays into our hands. He really does. But yeah, Bobby, you were right. I actually think it would have been better to avoid this team because they're going to hobble into the next round. I keep thinking back to that Cleveland team last year, and they just were so beat up facing Boston. And where did they come from? A 7-game series against the Magic. So I'm not
With
even saying
broken
they're a dirty
ribs.
team, but their play style results in more injuries than playing the Hawks would have. So they might be a little
If we're in
dirty,
Atlanta
but
right now, the show would be over. It'd be 3-0. We wouldn't even have anything to talk about. So I'm glad we have stuff to talk about.
I'm gonna be in the club with
guys can
bottles
hurt,
right
though.
now.
Like it's 3 games in a row that a flagrant foul has resulted in an injury. So it's like
Unbelievable.
I don't want there to be 6 of those, and then you have there was like it just feels like that needs to be mitigated a little. So that's I
So
wish
let
for
me
them
ask
that
you
they-
guys. Let me ask you guys one more thing here because I am
That's
curious.
the end of my apology.
Very big of you.
Well, you
Noah.
might-
Congratulations. This is a big show for you.
I got to get it
I
out of
should
there.
get
Criticized Joe. She
I
criticized
know
the
this is a
coach.
good show for me.
She did an
I didn't like
apology
criticizing
cam.
Joe. I was like, he knows more than me. But
This is
What-
like, oh,
I got
hi,
one more
John.
question for you guys because I don't know. I don't have an answer to this one, but it was a big deal tonight. What happened to Pritchard?
So we mentioned it at the top of the show, but I'd rather get your guys' takes on it. Well, let's start with the Pritchard apologist herself. Noah, she's on a roll tonight. Maybe she can explain a little bit of what's going on with
okay,
Pritchard.
I'm not a Pritchard apologist. I just see the vision, and so far it's actually well.
I know what you're gonna say here too, and you might be right.
Go ahead. What am I gonna say?
No, let her
The
say.
shots.
What about them?
He didn't have enough.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have enough. The question is, why couldn't he get them?
Yeah.
I thought that he had a couple of tough moments. The transition take foul was a tough moment. Stepping out of bounds, that like just kind of build up. You could tell that he was frustrated.
Mhm.
I didn't think he was terrible. Sue me. I didn't think he was terrible in this game. I thought they had bigger problems. So far, you've gotten 2
Pritchard
good
shade.
games out of him. And what?
You get the Pritchard
What did you say?
shade of glasses on. The shades are on.
Yeah, but I didn't think he was terrible.
Let me
I
ask you
first of
this
all,
serious
defensively,
question.
terrible,
Is
he
the
just wasn't
physicality-
good enough.
Is the
Yeah, he
physicality of
wasn't-
this
nobody
series
was good
too
enough,
much?
but he didn't stand out to me. Can I just say also one more thing on Pritchard? Maybe this is the Pritchard shades. I feel like defensively, he's given a better effort on Paolo when switched on to him and other guys than I expected and than other guys did at points tonight. So I actually felt like I got why Joe left him out there, despite the fact that he wasn't contributing offensively. It wasn't a great performance by Pritchard, but it wasn't. I didn't think it was like it
Is
wasn't
the
like a big part of why
physicality
they
too
lost.
much for him, or are you saying that he's okay out there? Is that part of it?
I mean, right now the physicality is too much for everybody. Like who
Right.
left the physicality? Jaylen tried to,
Right.
but it didn't work. Like
Bobby?
Nobody. You're right.
That's the
I can't
thing.
think of one person who's thrived
so
through
I'll
it.
give Pritchard the blame that he is as far as like what percent of the team he is. You know. So
Why
it's-
don't,
I
why
guess
don't, here's a better question. This team basically has, on a night like tonight, when one of their starters is out, they have 3 bench players. They have Pritchard, they have Hauser,
That's what
they
I
have,
was going to say.
they have Cornette. All 3 of them,
Luke
at
was
least
good
certain
tonight.
points in this series, have struggled. Luke was good tonight for a very small part of the game, Bobby, if we're going to be
Fair.
honest. What do these guys have to do to get going a little bit more consistently and help the Celtics team out? The starters right now, when they need the bench more than ever, when you've got guys banged up, you've got guys out of the lineup. I want to ask Noah about you, Holiday, after this, but what's up with the bench? What can they do? Or what can the starters do to help the bench? What do they need to do to get Hauser going again? Because Hauser's too good, too talented, too great of a shooter to be a complete zero. Somebody.
Sam?
Yeah, his first name is Sam.
It's funny because he did the same thing during the regular season against this team. So I had a lot of surprises in this series of guys who've done well. I'll give White. I was trying to think of who's handled things well this series, and I'll give it to White. I knew Hauser wasn't going to be effective in this series, and maybe that means that they should go in a different direction there, because whether it's the switching, and switching is an easy answer there, right? If you just switch and he's not getting open looks from 3, he's really not a guy who's going to be taking it inside, and so he's just not shooting in those minutes that he's playing there. So they're just switching him out of the offense. Do you go to another one of your wings in that spot who can do some other stuff there? Like, would it be crazy to try Sharman, Noah? Would it be insane?
it wouldn't be crazy because you're not getting anything out of Sam right now, really. And as we talked about, Pritchard was rough, and nobody. Like,
Because
you could throw him out
Shyman,
there,
as we've
but
talked about, can attack
is
closeouts
he-
a little bit.
You can't tell me. You cannot.
I can't-
You guys can both not tell me that the Celtics can't do anything to get Hauser involved. In
Well, that's
this.
to answer your question, Jimmy. I think
Some step
we've said
plays.
this all year, but I think that Hauser getting going has been like a critical part of the Celtics offense. And I've asked him this, like he hasn't really embraced it, but I think when nights where he has one or two shots is like a perfect indicator of how is the ball movement, how is the ball cutting, like all that stuff. Yeah, I say that all the time. And if you can go through the games where he took 2 or 3 shots, like it was indicative of like the offense sucked. And he's one of those guys that's just a recipient of good ball movement. But I was watching today and it's like he couldn't get anything. And then he gets like 1 3. It's like he's not gonna make it, when you have has he made 1 3 all series? Like
He has 0 points the whole series.
That's what I mean. He's been a 0, and I mean that
and
literally.
Kristoff hasn't made a 3 this series either, right?
No.
But
Or he might have
Porzingis,
won.
Porzingis tonight aside has had a much more effective series. Sam Hauser has been literally nothing.
It's crazy.
I mean, I guess Baylor
ineffective
could have been,
he's been.
Baylor could be good because you're not getting anything out of Sam. But I'm not going to sit here and say that like I think Baylor could have. Like,
Tonight was the night to try Baylor, I thought.
Could
with
try it.
Drew
I'm
out.
curious what would happen.
Or,
He's
like,
not scared of the moment, I don't think. So
I thought he looked good at shoot around this morning. He's the only guy we saw out there, and he was in a groove and hitting a lot of
he always
shots
looks
and
good at
stuff.
shooter.
So I was,
He's a good shooter.
and Al gave a little shout out in his answer this morning. Like, guys who need to step up. Sam, Derek, Baylor got thrown into that sentence, as you mentioned.
I was like
there, Noah.
Baylor.
So,
Yeah.
maybe if Jaylen or Jayson sat, we see him tonight, and this is the playoffs, right? We're not expecting Baylor's going to come out there and be a hero. But as he was going on that tear late in the year, Jimmy, we at least considered, all right, could you see a little bit of him in the playoffs? And, to go back to things coaches do, Noah, they don't trust rookies in the playoffs.
Yeah. And
I think
especially
we
on this team.
I feel like we agreed that like something outrageous needed to go down in order to see a guy like
Someone
Shyman
said
in
shoot
there.
around. Really, Bobby? It's fair.
Yeah. All right. John bailed on it, but Noah, you're in for this. Is blame pie time, and there is not a more suitable, perfect game to play the blame pie. I don't even know how you guys want to slice this one up. We already know one of Noah's slices where it's going. So why don't we start? No, are you ready for this, or do you need another minute?
Can I do my math?
Yeah.
Let me go first because my computer's dying.
All right, Bobby,
yeah,
you go
so
first.
I think, we're talking about lineups. We're talking about the big mistake late that Noah and I both agreed on that was pretty decisive in this game. And just an overall game plan in this one, being able to get the team back on the rails offensively. You got to give Joe 33 here. It's a sizable pie for him. And, we hate to blame the coach, but this is one circumstance here, a late challenge that missed. Not that that was a bad challenge, but, maybe there was another called earlier in the game that they could have had back that was better than that situation. I thought that was a good try, but it was off white on the bounce there when you looked at it. So, it was an opportunity lost. And then, I think you just looked at the way things got out of control in this game for a lot of stretches, specifically in the third. And you're like, all right, what could they have done differently there? Lineups, I pointed to lineups. They probably could have gone smaller at times in this game and tried to run and push the pace and stuff, but that's tougher without Drew. So I guess whether it's the lineup challenge and late decision there, I think you give 33 to Joe. Now, I thought Jaylen was pretty erratic at times in this game, but I'm giving him a smaller one just because you needed someone to kind of force the issue there. And like with game 2, you'll live with some of the higher turnover games if he can push through there. But I'm going to give him, just to get back to an even number here.
Yeah, because my
17.
brain is not going to be able to. Okay, 17. So we're
that
at
gets us to 50.
33 plus 17. We're at 50. Okay.
So I will go 20 Hauser.
Okay. We're at 70.
And 30 Porzingis.
Okay. I think you cut that up pretty nicely.
Actually, I'll split the 20 Pritchard Hauser.
Okay.
15 Hauser, 5 Pritchard.
Okay. 15
I think
Hauser,
Pritchard's got to be in there.
5 Pritchard. Okay, you gave Pritchard a bite. That's fine.
Yeah.
No, do you want to go or do you want me to go?
I'm ready. I have my
Okay,
numbers.
she's ready. Here we go.
Okay, 30 Porzingis. Bad on both ends today. And then he brought it in a post game, but he even missed bunnies. Like, that was the problem. It wasn't just the things the Magic did. He just couldn't do anything.
I feel like he's hurting them more than anyone else right now on the floor. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's hurting them the most. That's why they didn't want him out there. 30 Joe, for the reason I mentioned, the late game substitution primarily. Yeah, I really didn't like that.
30 Joe.
15 Tatum. Obviously.
Tatum. He was great.
I thought his turnovers were really costly.
7
And again,
turnovers.
everybody's
Fair.
held up to their standards. So
Yep,
Tatum is gonna. I'm not holding Tatum up to the standard of Pritchard. Like just to be clear. Every time someone gets banned in the comments, I'm like, what did I miss? 15
Don't worry
Tatum.
about it.
15 Tatum. 15 Jaylen. I think Tatum had a better
You don't
game than
wanna
Jaylen.
know.
What'd you say?
Nothing. I don't even know what it was either.
5 Sam, 5 Peyton.
All right, can we just start from the top?
I have it
30.
on here.
Okay. Read it. Read
Do
it.
the Jimmy. Show it on your phone.
Yeah, right. No.
Hold on,
read
there was
it.
like other stuff on there too. Can you guys see
You
it?
don't. We can. All right. 30 KP, 30 Joe. That's 60. 15 JT. That's 85. Wait. No. Sorry.
Hold on. That's 75.
75. JB, we're at 90. And then Hauser, 5. Pritchard, 5. Okay. That's solid.
And again, Hauser gave them nothing, but it's just Hauser. So it's like, I'm not going to give him that much. He's not.
They need
all
Hauser.
relative.
You said it.
It's all
Noah.
relative.
And that's why I'm giving him 5%. But like, the only people that didn't get any blame is Derek, because I feel like he hit expectations. Or I feel bad giving Tatum 15 because he was such a big part of their offense, but
They probably needed more Derek tonight.
he gets
Just a
held with
steady
Tatum.
hand.
That's the fourth best player in the NBA.
I'm going to slice up my pie right now. And there's one slice that I don't always give out, but I am going to make an exception tonight because even some of the players dished out a slice of this. So I'm going to give 30% to Joe. I think we're all in agreement that that's a fair number, give or take a few percent. So he gets 30. In the playoffs, coaching becomes a little bit more under the magnifying glass because it's more like a chess match. How are you going to adjust from game 1 to game 2 and so on and so forth? Each coach seeing the same film, they're making the adjustment, going back out there. I'm going to be very interested to see how the Celtics team answers some of the challenges that Orlando's presented to them physically and just matchup wise. Looks like Porzingis is getting blown by right now. So I got my eyes on Joe. So he gets 30%. You guys didn't give any percentages to this, but I'm going to give 10% tonight to the officials.
I don't know if you're covering your mic, but we're losing your audio a little.
Really? You using my audio? Okay.
It's like
Then we'll
in and
wrap
out.
it up quick. I'm giving 20% to the officials tonight. Not just because they missed a call here or they missed a call there, but I think the game is getting a little bit out of hand. I think it is their duty to protect the stars in this league. And if guys are getting hacked, or they're getting tackled, they're getting pushed around, they're dislocating fingers, they're bruising their knees. Like, let's reel it in a little bit here, guys. We want physicality, but we want it to also be within the lines. So, and I also think they missed some calls, Noah, tonight. I think that Jaylen Brown has some fair gripes. Now, I don't want this to affect the Celtics to the point where they're focused on the refereeing, but I think it just needs to be said. And John made a good point earlier. This was a game that Joe Mazzulla needed to get a tech for arguing missed calls or wrong calls. He needed to say something after the game tonight at the microphone, not the players.
He didn't at all.
He didn't. He really took the high road, in which I was a little bit surprised. So, again, that maybe I wish I could give Joe a little bit more of the pie for after the game and for in between the whistle, where he probably needed to do a little bit more as not an X's and O's coach, but as a vocal leader of the team coach in that sense, where you kind of have to stick up for your guys in that area. So I'm at 50% right now, and I haven't even given it to a player yet. I'm with you on having to sort of what's the word? It's all relative when it comes to like the bench. I'm going to just give the bench as a whole 20%. I'm going to toss Luke in there. I'm going to give Pritchard, Hauser. They can share this because the bench tonight was, in my opinion, basically non-existent. I know Luke had a stint, but this is a perfect opportunity for a bench to show their value. You've got guys in the starting lineup banged up. You've got guys missing time completely, and the bench no-show tonight. And I thought that was a big difference in this. So I'm at 70%. And then I'm going to give Porzingis 20%. And then I'm going to let Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum share the 10% here. And that, I know that's peanuts for those guys. They usually deserve more, but I didn't necessarily think, again, I thought they were sloppy tonight in certain points, but I thought they also had played gutsy in a way. Like both these guys are playing hurt. It's clear to me. I know that Tatum still put up 30, whatever, but a regular season game, neither of these guys are in there. I think Jaylen Brown's really playing through a lot more pain than we know. Borderline, maybe hockey tough right now. And it's going to show on some games more than others. And tonight it showed more than it did in game 2, where he really put together like a pretty heroic performance. So that's my blame pie. I think I'm at 100. Hopefully
And
I
honestly, on the Jaylen piece, like I kind of wanted him to talk about it, but I didn't really know how to phrase it. But it's like he was not shying away from the physicality. Like he wasn't fading away. He wasn't avoiding the basket. He wasn't avoiding contact. It just didn't work out for him. And I don't know if he was not being smart with his angles or things. Like when I rewatch it, I'll have a better sense. But I kept thinking like he's doing the right thing. It's just not having the right result. And so still gets some of the blame, but I felt like his process was accurate.
This has been a very, I'm sorry. Are you distracted?
No, Bobby walked into this room. So
Bobby,
dirty look that I gave.
where did Bobby go? Yeah, Bobby's just
in my
John
room
Bales,
now.
Bobby Bales. It's just us two.
Bobby
So
thinks
we'll wrap it up here. But before we go, one more thing that we have to play that I wanted to do last game in regards to Tatum. Probably didn't need to, but and if Bobby was on here, and if you get his attention, I'd like his opinion on. Is it time to panic?
I think we're wrapping up, but we want your input on the panic meter.
Yeah, we want to know where Bobby's at in the panic meter. Is he?
The computer just died. All right, scoot over.
All right, we'll do it one more time. Bobby, take a watch here.
Yep.
Okay, quick panic meter. Bobby seemed very nervous about this going into the show. I have a feeling he's a little bit higher up than everybody else. Let's start with Bobby. Where are you on this panic meter?
I've tried to stay even keeled through this series.
No, you haven't.
When have I panicked?
You've not
all
been
the
even
time,
keeled.
man.
I've been fair.
Okay.
I've been completely down the middle, and so I'm going to stay 5. Why 5? They're not going to lose this. They're not going to lose this series. They're in a position still to win in 5, which is what many of you expected. So you knew you were going to drop a game in this series, and it was probably going to be ugly if it happened. So there's no reason to panic in that sense. As Noah mentioned earlier, you're getting beat up, and every game you seem to be getting more and more injured and physically beaten down, which is where the panic sets in there, that by the end of the series, even if you win, you might be in a worse position to win the championship out of the series. So I think that's where you start to panic more than anything out of this one.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said earlier, I do think there's a real chance that this series could go a little longer than many expect here. And I'm just going to stick with that because I think the Magic have been close enough in 2 games to win those games. And we'll see what Drew's status is too. I think you have to factor that into it. So I'm not freaking out, but I'm in the middle, straight up.
Are the injuries making you more panicked? Like Drew Holiday being out?
How could they not?
Right.
How could they not?
Do we know anything about Holiday? Does either of you have heard any idea? Okay.
Again, I watched the whole game back and I didn't see him get hurt.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I'm going to be 5 too, but just because of the injuries, honestly, I expected them to lose game 2 or 3. They lost game 3. I think this Magic team is super competitive. We knew that. I haven't changed my view on them really. I guess I did change my view on the physicality piece being potentially detrimental to them long term, but the fact that you had 3 of your 5 players potentially not able to play tonight, I not just thinking like, is it the Celtics year? you have to have health on your side to win a championship. You know, the teams that are hobbling to the finish line are not the ones that hoist the trophy. And so that's my concern, is just between Jaylen's knee and Drew's hamstring is actually a little bit worrying to me, because that's the kind of thing that you would think it's not going to go away in 2 days. So, you know, it just feels like they're kind of dropping like flies a little bit. And even just watching the series, I feel like every couple minutes somebody was at risk of something else. So I'm a little bit worried long-term just about their health and about maybe like.
What's your number?
5.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. So is Noah panicking too? You said I was panicking.
Well, I think your number's higher than 5.
Yeah,
But Noah, that's 5 is high for Noah. So I think
And again, panicking in the
relatively
sense of
speaking.
like the big picture is people want the Celtics. I mean, the Celtics are looking for the championship, right?
Right,
That's the
right,
question here.
right.
And I think, you know, you look at teams that you have to be healthy, like you have to get there.
And that's what we're really talking about here, Jimmy, right? Like, does this series make you feel a little shakier about them stacking up to the top competition? Like, every matchup's different, right? Like, round 2 could actually end up being easier or look easier than this one
like,
has
this
so
is what
far.
I mean.
But, yeah, and that's a big factor,
It's a little
too.
too early for this.
Yeah, and I think so. When you talk about panic, yeah, on the micro level, the panic is low. Like I think we all agree the Celtics are
No
going
one
to get
thinks
out of
they're
this
losing this
series.
series. Yeah.
Right, but on a bigger macro level, the panic has to be ticking up a little bit because of what it's going to take to get out of this series, basically. And Noah alluded to it earlier. Last year, the Cavs showed up after getting beat up by the Magic. They got out of that series.
By the way,
banged
Cavs
up.
went up 2-0 in that series. Lost 2 games in Orlando, right? They were on the road, and then it went 7.
Right. So there you go. I mean, obviously you want to avoid that scenario, but I think if you're panicking about anything, it's health. And so right now, the best thing the Celtics team can do is get the hell out of Orlando with another win, wrap things up in Boston, try to get as many days off as they possibly can, lick their wounds, and reset, and just be happy that you learned how to match some physicality, assuming they can, and they can get out of this. Kind of get punched in the face to start this playoffs off, and just kind of hopefully use that as some momentum moving forward, and then be the aggressor moving forward. So that's going to do it for us. Those are our final thoughts. We're going to get you guys out of here. We're almost on 2 hours now. I want to say thanks to Bobby and Noah for jumping on from Orlando. Game 4, is it Sunday?
Sunday at 7.
Sunday at 7. We got a Sunday night game here. A
Good
lot
thing these
more.
games are starting at 7 because they're like taking 5 hours long. So
They are taking a long time.
That was the longest regulation game I can ever remember covering. Not that I cared. I loved it. It was great to watch.
It dragged out like crazy those last few minutes with the officiating and going to the replay and the fouling and all that stuff. So that's the NBA for you. We're going to get out of here. We want to thank everybody for watching at home, for watching back on Saturday. Hopefully this has been some form of therapy for you guys. Certainly it is for us after a tough one. Celtics drop game 3 to the Magic in Orlando, 95-93. They move on to Sunday's game 4. Noah will be there. Bobby will be there. I think Sherrod's going to be back. We'll have a full house. John will actually be invested in this, and he won't be looking at the NFL draft any longer by then. And hopefully the Celtics can come out with a W. I'm going to look for the outro here if I can find it, and then we will peace out. Give me a second. Where's the outro? Here it is. Wait, is this it? Hold on, guys. Hold on.
It says outro, Jimmy.
Here it is. Garden Report outro. Peace.
No one's sneaking a vegan brownie by me, I'll tell you that.
okay, you know what, John? We're gonna do it.
You have to feel that way too, Bobby.
I have
Say
to
it.
feel
You
that
said
way?
it.
Let's fight Al over and make Luke your first center.
Bobby, we gave you Luke hour early. We're not going to end this on a damn conversation about Luke